Welcome to my show, simply entitled Women Influencers, where you will find inspirational stories of successful women in business. I am Veronica Malala, CCIM, founder and CEO of the Capstrata Group of Companies, providing commercial real estate development, brokerage, and property management services in the greater Orlando area. Today's guest is Donna Udumulla, an incredible young woman whose story of migrating from Sri Lanka to the U.S., as well as her growing career in finance and portfolio at Madison Trust, will definitely amaze you. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe below. I welcome your comments and please share with someone who can benefit from this podcast. Hi, Donna. How are you today?
I am doing amazing. How are you doing, Veronica?
I'm great. I mean, Florida is starting to warm up again, so I'm really, really so happy about that. But Donna, I'm so excited to have you on our show. And if you don't mind, I'll just jump right in because I'm very, very interested in knowing your story, how you grew up in your environment, and how you got to where you are today. So please tell us.
Amazing. First of all, Veronica, thank you so much for having me as a guest on your podcast. It's really an honor. So, my story actually starts in Sri Lanka. I am an immigrant. I came to America about 10 years ago. And in Sri Lanka, I think growing up Sri Lanka with a very different culture, very different background, coming to America was just the dream. That's what I grew up with, right? Seeing the black and white movies, thinking one day I'm going to be in America, chasing the American dream. And it was almost next to impossible at around 15 when my dad passed. And I was taking over, just, taking care of my mom. My sister was still in school. It was a little difficult timeline. And I wasn't sure if I'll make it to America. And by some miracle, literal miracle, in 10 years ago, with just $200 in my pocket, I had no idea what I was doing. I got on a plane, three actually, three planes, and I landed in Chicago. And then after that, I landed in Newark, and with two suitcases, $200, figuring out what I need to do. And thank luckily, I came here to go for school. Has just that was my foundation here. Come to school. I wanted to be a lawyer. Soon realized, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people who wanted to follow law realized it's really expensive route to do school and then 4 years of law. So I made a quick pivot into finance, and that was it. I fell in love and I started understanding the different things you can do with money, right? Capital, those different structures, stocks and bonds. That was my first love. And soon I realized if you need to make money, you have to stand out. You can't be a number. And that's what I thought Wall Street was. You're just a number, especially a minority, a woman, an immigrant. I had a lot of odds against me. So the what I realized is you got to make yourself stand out. And that's when I stumbled into alternative investments, right? And retirement money, which is such a something people don't even think about. And from all that 10-year life cycle of immigrant, $200, somehow I landed where I am today as the head of strategic relations at Madison Trust and working with an amazing community all across the United States and helping them not only diversify their own portfolios, but also raising capital through retirement money so that they can get their projects running. So if you were to ask me today, Donna, do you ever think you would be sitting here at this exact moment 10, 15 years ago? I'd say no. I wouldn't think that. I was a little girl from Sri Lanka who had nothing to her name and just had a dream to come to America.
Wow. And let me tell you, what a great immigrant story. And I feel so very connected with that because I too am an immigrant. And isn't that just fantastic how the mindset of an immigrant is really that of resilience and really wanting to succeed because frankly we have no choice, right? We have no choice.
We really have no choice. And I think one of the things I do remember is um, as an immigrant, right? First, how do you stretch that $200 as much as you can? And that's nothing. And I also remember I had sat down and crunched the numbers. I was like, I need to make $100 a day at minimum to afford to go to school here, to afford to live here. And right now, you think to yourself, what is $100? But then 10 years ago, as a college student, and you barely have the skill sets to work, it was a lot of hard work, and I had 5 jobs. I was interning in the school, I was a salesperson in the bookstore, I was a waitress, which, by the way, I didn't know the difference between an Italian hero and a cold sub. I had no I was the worst waitress in the world. I tutored, and then I was a pizza delivery driver. So that all of that to make $100 a day.
Wow, and that's really, again, great immigrant story because, we have no choice. We have to do what we have to do, and that's how we actually started when you came on to Zoom just earlier. And let me ask you, your English is fabulous. Do you speak English in Sri Lanka while you were growing up? And obviously, 10 years ago, you were already what, a young teenager?
Yes. It was actually, and I get that a lot. Everyone assumes just today I had a coffee meeting, and even my client was very surprised to know I've only been in America for 10 years. I was fortunate when my father was alive to have gone to a British private school. So I was really fortunate at that time to be able to learn English on the more British side of things. So if you catch me on a day I'm really tired, you'll see the British come out a little bit. But when I'm not tired, it's all full on American English.
So why did you not move to London or England?
So great question, right? The finances were really, really tight. Just in general, going anywhere, immigrating to any country was next to impossible. I don't even know how America landed, but I just have from when I was a child, my mom still it says when I was like 5 years old, I would always argue with my parents saying, watch me, I'm going to go to America. You can't stop me. And somehow that was always in my brain. I'm going to get myself to America one way or another. And again, Veronica, it was a miracle. To this day, I do not know how I got the opportunity in this rural community college all the way in the suburbs of New Jersey. I just applied, got in really late, and I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. This is my make it or break it moment. So it just happened. And I was quite fortunate that in spite of the fear, took the step and got on that plane.
Yeah, and isn't it really what makes dreams realities is the
Yes.
boldness to step into something that's so unknown. So wow, kudos to
So
you. I love that. I love that story.
it's
So tell me about Madison Trust. How did you end up working for or with Madison Trust?
This was around the same time I was having a little bit of an identity crisis. We all go through that, right? Especially in
Oh
the
yeah.
beginning of our career. I wanted to be first lawyer. Learned it was really expensive. Then we moved like to be the Wolf of Wall Street, right? Great. Stocks, bonds, wonderful. And I did a small internship, a brief stint at Wall Street, and I realized, oh my goodness, this is not the world for me. I'm not really feeling like I'm making a change. I'm just a number. So I went back to get my master's in financial analysis. At the same time, I applied for Madison Trust. Now, just like a lot of people, I had no idea about retirement money or alternative investments. And soon when I applied to Madison as a customer service rep. So my first job at Madison was, hey, thank you for calling Madison Trust. This is Donna. How can I help you? And I
I
loved
love
that.
that.
I loved that job. To this day, my clients still call me and be like, Donna, can you help me with this form? I'm like, Jerry, you have other people to help you right now, but I'll help you. I landed at Madison, and I soon started to understand there is a far more wide, dynamic investment asset classes out there beyond stocks and bonds, and nobody is talking about this. This is like that 3% of finance nobody talks about. So the more I was with the company, learned the culture, the people, and I was climbing up the corporate ladder. I got promoted as the investments manager. I was handling our portfolio, growing our portfolio. And I realized wow, there's so much more you can do with this IRA. It's not just stocks and bonds. You can put it into real estate. That's what we are always talking about. Precious metals, private credit, anything and everything. And that's just the investor side of things. Like, how amazing is that?
Yeah, amazing. And you rose from the ranks. So, for our listeners who are young out there, don't worry about getting your foot in the door as a starting point, right? But I mean, look at Donna. I mean, she, and I mean, fantastic. I love, 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 love that. So, I wanted to ask you about challenges, right? If there was one challenge that you overcame that you're most proud of, what would that be?
I think in There's so many challenges, Veronica, right? Like for us, especially being women in business in general, it's always challenging you have to work twice as hard as anyone else to show that you deserve your seat at the table. One of my challenges was definitely early on from becoming that investments manager to the role I am in right now, which is more on the capital raising side of things. The challenge was getting people to take me seriously, right?
Mm,
You walk in the door, and a lot of people assume a lot of things about you immediately from your looks. You like people do judge a book by its cover, and that's the truth. And my biggest challenge in the beginning was and I'm working with, fund managers, financial advisors, securities attorneys, and registered investment advisors, people who've been in the business longer than I can even imagine. So when you're a newbie, they're not taking you seriously. And they are just assuming you are just, some salesperson.
yeah.
And that's not true. So that was my biggest challenge. And I remember there was one instance where I had walked into a meeting and they were like, "Oh, is your boss coming?" I'm like, no, you had the meeting with me. You set up the meeting with me, so let's talk. So working towards getting that credibility and that track record. So the next time you walk into a room there, they know, oh, she is the person I need to talk to. I need to speak with her was in the beginning very challenging. To a point now, though, people are coming to set up meetings with me, requesting to set up meetings with me. I do not need to be the one setting up the meetings anymore. And it's very interesting to see it switch from a challenge now. Now the challenge is how do I really fit all these meetings into my schedule? So, but and something I would like to say to anyone right now who has that same challenge, right? Getting taken seriously. Don't let those negative moments affect you. Like they're a lesson, they're an opportunity, and rising above it and still going on in spite of it is what is going to get your credibility. Trust in yourself. And I think, Veronica, you said this, believe in yourself. Believe that you have that knowledge and that work ethic to get through that.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, truly, that's your boldness and your persistence, and just putting yourself in that position where you you gain the confidence of the person across the table from you. I think
Mhm.
that's pretty fantastic. So let's talk about influence for a minute here. Our show is called Women Influencers. So I wanted to know if there was one outcome that you had an influence on that you're most proud of, what would that be?
So I think it's gonna go back to how I ended up where I am right now, the current role from investments manager to now working with sponsors and operators in all different asset classes on raising capital. When I was the investments manager, I worked with a lot of, like, say, sponsors, right? Fund managers. There was one instance where one sponsor was about to give up on his deal because he was short $1 million. And it was a really small raise, too. It was $3 million. And I remember exchanging emails with him back and forth. And he was responded saying, well, we can't move forward with this project because we don't have enough funding. And I picked up the phone and I called him. I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, talk to me. What I would love to learn more because beyond the business relationship at this point, there was just a mutual respect for each other's roles. Then I realized they were having a very difficult time raising. The market was just not right. Investors just didn't have the liquidity. And I simply asked him, well, why don't you continue to have the conversation about raising money with retirement capital? And for them, it was like, huh? retirement capital. What do you mean? Well, you already have your investors, right? But imagine if you can go to your investors and let them know, hey, you can get into my deal. You don't have to use your checking or savings account. You can use an abandoned 401k somewhere and then get the returns tax free. And it was like a light bulb moment for that sponsor at that time. And I remember he was also like, would you mind just being in the conversation with me? I'm like, absolutely. Happy to be part of the conversation. So me and him, we tag team and had a conversation with the investor. He explained the investment structure. I explained my role as the IRA custodian, how I can help them access their retirement money to get into the deal. And within a week, he was able to get his final $1 million to push the deal through. And at that moment is when I realized there is this huge need for capital out there, right? And then there's a huge lack of education on different forms of getting capital. And that influence of, and I call it education because it's really education. It's not a pitch. It's like, hey, investors want returns and diversification, sponsors need capital. This is a match made in heaven. And I think that one moment, that first moment that helped me step into this role always stayed with me because it was as simple as, have you tried this? And sure, I'll be a part of your conversation too. So it was definitely a very pivotal moment in my career.
Yeah, and for sure, it was pivotal for your friend, client, colleague. I mean, pretty awesome because now he was able to move forward with this project that he was about to give up. So great, great story. I wanted to ask you, Donna, if there was one piece of advice that you could give to our audience today, what would that be?
Oh, Veronica, it's simple. Balance. Learn the art of balance. And I think us, and not just women, right? Everybody, everyone who's ambitious and driven with a crazy work ethic, we exhaust ourselves because we believe we need to be 120 at all times of the day. But then what's the point of being so ambitious if you drain yourself in you emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and you're not able to be your fullest self? So, as a young professional, to all the young professionals out there and also experienced professionals out there, I think it's very important we pause and reflect and understand we need to be balanced so that we can show up as our full self, not just to work, but in your personal life, to your family, to your friends, and for yourself. And I'm not the one to preach. It's like I have a difficulty myself balancing, but I think every single day learning that, like being mindful of it and trying to balance has helped me a lot. Just have better work relationships, have better personal relationships, and just feel good about myself.
Yeah. Well, well said, Donna. Awesome. So we've come to the portion of our interview where you get to ask me a question. So please go ahead.
So, my question to you, Veronica, is what's that one decision that you made in your life that basically changed the trajectory of your life to, and maybe it was a challenge and you overcame a challenge, but definitely made a change in your life?
So if you're referring to when the moment was when I started choosing myself over a bigger goal. And this was, by the way, great question. And thank you for asking me that question. Because I think that for you, for instance, or for many out there who are young, right? When I was young, I said to
Oh, you're still young,
myself,
Veronica. Still young.
younger, okay, younger, okay. When I was younger, it is so, I think it was even necessary, right?
Mm.
To fit in, to do what you needed to do to be able to get where you needed to go. But as you grow older, like you said and mentioned earlier, it is easier to choose yourself because life is hard as it is, right? And I always tell my kids, if there was one thing that you are guaranteed in life is that you're going to experience some horrendous challenge that you almost think that it's time to give up or you don't know what you're going to do, right? And then as you mature and you overcome these many curveballs that life actually throws at you, you realize that, life is just about, like you said, balance. but that many, many times you have to choose yourself. Because if you don't, then you don't show up um, in a room or to your family whole, because you have to make sure that you protect your sanity, your well-being, your
Mhm.
emotional self, everything, your soul. You have to protect that. And I think that's a good way of actually making sure that your integrity is intact, your principles are intact, all your values remain intact, is because you have come to the conclusion that if you don't hold on to what you believe in and protect um, what you hold most dear to you, then you lose it. So that is really where I believe as you grow older, you just come to terms with that. And it's a natural progression from being youthful and young and younger to an older self who has been kind of, I don't know, been through so much that you just know that what is important is that you hold on to what you truly believe in. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, I love that. I don't think people talk enough about that, holding on to your values, holding on to your ethics, and just not fully selling your soul out there because people assume it's one or the other. So I love that you said that, Veronica. I think people need to hear that more often.
Well, what a great question. So thank you for asking that question. Now, before we go, Donna, if our audience wants to connect with you, who knows, maybe they're raising capital for a project, how do they connect with you?
So you can always connect with me on LinkedIn, Donna Udumulla, as well as if you go to our MadisonTrust.com site and click on the Investment Sponsors Hub, you will see a ton of resources as well as my information to set up a call, shoot me an email, and of course, just beyond capital raising or portfolio diversification, I always love getting to know professionals out there doing different things in the different industries and trends they're coming across and what they're seeing and how we can get together as a community and help each other. So I always welcome new faces into my life to see how we can work together and just grow together.
And it's, for people out there listening, Donna is someone to connect with. That's for sure. I mean, look at her. She's just so vibrant and so
You're
open. And I
so
love
kind.
that about you.
You're too
Oh, no,
kind,
no, no,
Veronica.
no.
Right
For
back
real,
at
for real.
you.
Thank you. But I want to thank you again, Donna, for being here in our show today. I think that a lot of our audience will really get a lot of good golden nuggets from this interview. And I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. So I look forward to more times that we can get together and probably do business. And in the meantime, I want to say thank you and I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for having me. Like I said, it has been a pleasure and an honor. So, and continue doing what you're doing, just getting voices out there, but also just really showing both young and experienced professionals that you believe in yourself. You will definitely get to where you need to go. So, thank you for that.
Well, thank you.